how was the decision to fire Anderson Moreira?
That kind of decision can only come after watching a lot of football. I can tell you, going into the process of buying in as a partner of Botafogo, making a movement on the coach was not on the radar at all. And, you know, I watched virtually every game I could get access to from last season. I watched every game kind of in the recent run-up in the, you know, the Rio State Championship. And, you know, what I really saw was a brand of football that did not look like what I envisioned for Botafogo in the future. You know, certainly Mr. Anderson did an incredible job coming into the middle of the season and getting a championship. I mean, it's the most important thing he could have done for Botafogo. Botafogo is not a club that should ever be in the second division, and the speed, the efficiency by which he returned the club to the top division is remarkable. His winning percentage on the field against his competition is remarkable. But, you know, we have to look to Serie A, and we have to look at greater challenges, and we have to see what kind of football program we want to be. And you go into the Rio State Championship with, you know, I don't want to make any comment about any particular player, because these are young men that are fighting for their spots and fighting for us, right? But a lot of talk, you know, even from the coach, that he didn't have the right people, that he didn't have the right squad. Well, you're going against competition, which is, you know, in lower divisions that don't have anywhere near the right squad to compete with Botafogo. So how did we compete with those teams? What was our style of play? Did I see the right organization, you know, and positioning and shape of the squad, right? Were the responsibilities of the players, was it clear what they were trying to do? What was the identity of this club? You know, you can fail at what you're trying to do, but you can still see what you're trying to do. And I had a hard time seeing the Botafogo way. Like, what are we trying to do? And you can't say, well, I don't have the players for Serie A. Well, of course, right? We're going to be adding players. But that can't be the reason you explain a draw or a near loss to a lower division team. They don't have the players for Serie A either. So I looked for clues as to what kind of football club we would be under his leadership. And he's a very good man. He deserves to be treated very well in the history of our club. You know, I have opportunities with the new law to get out of the old contract. Well, we're not getting out of his contract. We you know, owe him the respect of, you know, contractually paying out what we need to pay and thanking him for everything that he did. But I didn't see the kind of football that I wanted to play. I didn't see the shape. I didn't see a vision.
You want a Botafogo that's offensive or that has a solid defense? What kind of football style are you expecting?
The press, which you see happening in the games I'm watching in Botafogo, ends up becoming effective against Botafogo right now, because we don't have the discipline to possess. You know, when a guy runs halfway across the field to press you and put pressure on you, and then you're not calm and you make a mistake and you distribute incorrectly, it's a turnover, and then they have a counter strike. Well, they're going to keep pressing. But I think what you see in Europe, you see systems where the athletes are nowhere near as good as they are in Brazil, especially when you get into parts of Eastern Europe and Russia. And yet these systems end up being very effective at taking moderate athletes, many great athletes in that part of the world, and then turning them into machines, right? And, you know, my God, if you could take that structure and these systems and bring these to the athletes of Brazil, where there's a meet in the middle, right? I mean, nobody in Brazil wants to be told that we're bringing Europe to you and going to force you to accept our way. But, you know, football is a global game. We have to look all around the world to the best examples of success. And you're starting to see the most consistent, you know, forms of success playing out right on fields in front of us with teams like PSG and Manchester City. So let's talk about that for a minute. It's Manchester City. They are incredibly patient, right? They move the ball around, great first touch, great calmness. Of course, they have great athletes, right? But more than anything, if you're calm, you can slow down the game in your mind. You can see everything in slow motion. Your heart rate is a little bit lower than players that play with a high level of panic, right? And so they're calm, maybe because they're recruited that way. They're personally identified that way. They're calm because their first touch is so skillful. They don't lose time collecting the ball when the defense is attacking. Whatever the reason is, there's a calmness to Manchester City that you see that allows them to be very intelligent and very strategic. So what I'd like to see in the Botafogo way over time, number one, I want it to be clear 3 to 5 years from now that there is a Botafogo way. I want people to see us play, and from academy all the way on up, they recognize what we're trying to do. I would like these systems of Europe to be combined with the talents of Brazil, the beautiful game as I think Brazil invented, combined with some of the newer methods. And what that means is great patience and structure in the back. It means center backs that are highly skilled in collecting the ball. They're highly skilled at distributing the ball, long directional passes. And they're patient. They have to be fast, right? Because in the modern game, your right back and left back are flying up the field. And so things don't always go as you expect. So every now and then you find yourself with only 2 in the back or 1 in the back or 3 in the back. And that center back better be quick, right? They have to be highly technical. They have to be very patient. They have to be calm. They should not panic on the press. They should know what their 3 options are. But when they get into trouble, they should be lightning quick. They should be the best athletes on your field because they're your last line of defense. You cannot lose a game if you prevent them from scoring, right? So being strong in the back, is the most important thing. On the wings, whatever the formation, let me just talk generally because I'm not an architect of the game, right? It's if we are patient and we are well structured and we are compact in the back, then we advance the ball up the field slowly, right? We don't look to bomb it over the top unless we're in a moment that calls for that. We advance our entire formation up the field, and we do our best to maintain possession at all costs. We do our best to dominate the opponent with possession, with pace. We want to demoralize them. There are games where I'll see my favorite teams lose. We had a tie the other night where we dominated possession, at Crystal Palace in the second half of the game. I think it was like 80%. And we didn't get the goals that we wanted to get on top and win the game. But that happens from time to time. But if you play that way and you dominate possession, you will, over the course of a long season, have many, many wins. I think that once you get the ball into the middle third and the final third, you also have to have the ability to possess even in advanced states. There's a bit of panic that often develops when you're in the other box and you're trying to score and legs are flying around and everybody's trying to get it in the net. Well, the best teams are still patient in those moments in the final third, aren't they?
Do you think Luis Castro is the man to apply that philosophy? Will announce him soon?
Yeah, it's reported that we're talking to Luis Castro. We've talked to many coaches. We've talked to coaches in and around Portugal. We've talked to coaches across Europe. We've talked to 2 situations in Brazil. And I'd say one of the problems that you run into is you can find a terrific coach. That terrific coach doesn't always come with a terrific team. And so you may find the best coach and he might be sitting in a restaurant in Rio de Janeiro, but if he doesn't have, the right staff, then he doesn't really have the right system, because then we have the risk of having to put together his team. We have the risk of hoping that there's communication, perfect chemistry between the assistants. Game substitutions are often made because of what the assistant sees, not what the head coach sees, right? So you know, that coordination and that chemistry in the team has got to be there. So we've looked at coaches all over the world, but really what we're looking for is an entire system, an entire staff. We also are going to be adding teams to Botafogo, a B team, like you have in Portugal, these great B teams that you see. They're not just the reserve team. They're the people that are fighting, younger maybe, maybe they're in medical rehabilitation, but they're fighting to be on the first team. So we're going to be growing our staff. You know, we're going to be identifying the talented people that exist there today, and we're going to be creating jobs for them, because we have to have a first team, we have to have a B team, we have to have the very best of the U20 space as well.